good idea. Then we can develop a score sheet, you know.
Great. Thank you. We're back out of executive session, and we have chosen the way that we do this. There are 3 recipients of the $1,000 scholarship awarded by the Sweetwater County Commissioners. And those 3 will be in no particular order. If any one of those 3 cannot or do not accept this scholarship for whatever reason, then we have 3 alternates, and those are in order. And so if one of the recipients does not able to accept the scholarship, then it moves to the first alternate. And so Commissioner Toman.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to award the 3 $1,000 scholarships to Grace Duncan, Green River, Austin Fox, Green River, Creed Jones, Eden Farson. The alternates in order would be number 1, Levi Johnson from Eden Farson. Number 2, Yesenia Vicencio Delgadillo. Sorry.
Well
From
done.
Rock Springs.
Mhm.
Number 3 would be Emily Toucher from Rock Springs. And want to congratulate those awardees, and all of the applicants it was very difficult to choose. They were all very outstanding. Thank you.
Well done. We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Thank you. That is fun. It's fun to do that.
Who did the second on that?
What do you think? Moving ahead to salaries, discussion and recommendation? Or specific purpose tax? Any opinions? Okay, then let's do the salary discussion. Since
All
it's
right.
really an in-house issue. Commissioner Lloyd.
Let me pull out my notes so I have this right. First of all, I want to say this is been a bigger task than I anticipated it for multiple reasons. And what I will throw out is a few numbers for the commission to make a final decision with some facts of why each of those numbers could make sense to the raise. But before we start, I do think it's important that we break, because we've put a lot of focus on the salary specific to the clerk of court, the clerk, the assessor, the treasurer, and the am I missing? No, the coroner hasn't been, but no, we'll talk to that. So anyway, so let's just start this way. Commissioner, I recommend the salary stay the same. It's hard to make a change backwards, but I don't think we should make a move forward. I think that should stay the same. The sheriff and attorney, amongst our discussions, we have talked about the top level of 145 based upon the fact it takes a Juris Doctorate, the fact that attorneys are now making more than the elected official, and that could create a difficulty in recruiting the right person. That top level has also been discussed for the sheriff, knowing he manages the biggest budget of those areas, also the largest employee pool. And it does require a specific level of history, not requires, but to have the right candidate, it would. The other one that I want to bring up is the coroner, and we haven't really talked about the coroner at all. And I would recommend, after we look at the other folks, an increase similar to what we give our other folks to the coroner, even though he's a part-time employee, because he is a valid employee and is very busy throughout the year. So I came up with a few numbers. I'm first going to show, I do want to make sure I represent what was requested from us from the elected officials, and their original presentation was 135 was their request. That would be equal to what Campbell County moved all of their folks to in the same levels. The other numbers I've come up with to share for us to make a decision was $111,000 a year, and that matches the COLAs since the last time the elected officials received a raise was in 2015. That would match the COLAs that have been given to our employees and department heads in that point. The other number I have is 115, which is COLAs plus a couple percentages down the year. That would also be equal to what Natrona County has moved their commissioners from. And I do need to note that that was at 90,000 and they moved them to 19, they moved them to 115, which was actually a 25% increase. So my third number of option would be that 120, 125 mark, which would be based upon where Natrona, that 25% increase to that point. So those would be the discussion points I would put out for potential recommendations for salaries, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Chairman Smith.
Thank you. Can we get one recommendation from you? I appreciate the options. What would be your recommendation?
What was that?
What would be your recommendation among those options that you gave us?
I don't know.
Okay.
I gave 4.
Fair enough.
I kind of want to hear where everyone else lies. It's a hard decision.
Well, I'll take you off the hot seat because you did all this work and
Okay.
got us these recommendations. So yeah, let's, Commissioner Wendling, do you want to start?
Sure, thanks.
Thank you.
I think Commissioner Lloyd gave a lot of good reasons and that type of thing, but no matter what the reasons are, these people do deserve raises. From my standpoint, sheriff, county attorney go right up to 145, that type of thing. I'll never talk about commissioner salaries only because even though there was a suggestion of lowering that type of thing, I learned a long time ago, you just best not talk about your own salary. You just, leave things alone, and in the long run, it's better. For the assessor, treasurer, clerk of courts, and clerk, the number that I was looking at, it's amazing that it is a number that fits right in between Natrona County and Campbell County. It was 130,000 and that type of thing. So I just really feel that that's very appropriate, that type of thing. These, whether new or otherwise, I know I've talked about steps, but that doesn't seem practical because even if it's a new person coming in, they've got to do the same job as the person who did not get elected. So that type of thing. Our coroner works 24 hours a day. He's on call. Weekends. There's only one other person I know when I look through the list that's on weekend call, and that's sheriff. And the sheriff can always look at his under sheriffs and whomever and say, hey, I'm taking the weekend off. I'm taking a week off. You cover it. Coroner doesn't have that privilege, and neither does the deputy coroner. So it's an elected position, and I want to look at it from the same thing I try to look at everything else is everybody counts or nobody counts. So it's time that that coroner be considered as the valued elected official that everybody else is. It's not a part-time job. It's called, he's got to go. Middle of the night, not one of us goes. Sheriff has it covered.
Sometimes.
Well, that's sometimes not true. Yeah, you're right. But for the most part,
often.
not very often. But as well as the deputy. So there is that to look at. So I'm in favor of moving that coroner right up level with the other elected officials. Because he is an elected official. All count, or everybody counts or nobody counts. The only thing we've forgotten about, and we need to take some advisement, and I suggest we go into executive session and talk with our attorney, is we still have 2 deputies, deputy county attorney and deputy clerk of court. And right now their salaries are set at 85% through the last resolution of the elected officials in their capacity. So we need to talk about that and see what we want to do there. But where I'm at is 145 sheriff and county attorney, and everyone counts. 130, because it fits right between Natrona County and Campbell. We're neither one of the two, but you know what? We're number 4 on our license plates and number 1 in everybody's heart.
Amen.
So
I like it.
they count. They all count. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Shanefield.
I've spent a lot of time contemplating the right direction to go and meeting with people and I agree with the attorney and the sheriff being at 145. I have a question around the coroner being part-time versus full-time. Is that, Mr. De Leon, is that clarified anywhere? I recognize that, like he is getting called out in the middle of the night and everything else. I'm just curious as to what that looks like. Okay, thank you. And I'm still fluctuating. The number 115 set well with me because of the COLAs plus some additional percent in moving. Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Shanefield. Commissioner Toman.
Ms. Shanefield, will you repeat what you said on the last ones? Because I missed that.
115.
115?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Davis is glaring at me, so what can I say? Every time he came to my office, I said we should do a wage study. You should be paid according to your job duties, like the department heads. And since we only gave the department heads 6%, I probably would say 6%, but I guess I could go with my fellow commissioners as high as 115 without getting too much heartburn. But I don't want any more conflicts between department heads versus electeds. It's 2 separate things.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I appreciate you letting me go last since I had to come up with the recommendations. The coroner, I need a little more information for, and I would be willing to take him up to the percentage that we take the other elected officials if he's part-time. That makes sense to me. The number I'm at for I'm with everything else across the board. I'm at 120, 120 for the elected officials. I could go 125. But my number right now has been 120. I think that's a fair salary. It gets them closer to where they're at, of where the other folks had to last for longevity down the road. I know, and as I just also want to comment that I know that David Davis, Assessor Davis, and I have had about 19 wrestling matches on top of our discussions, and I just want to actually thank him for coming to talk to me and sharing ideas and going through thoughts. And even though there were times he wanted to throw the phone or throw a tape dispenser at me as we discussed, or vice versa, I think it's been good conversation. And even though we've been on different sides of the page, I think we've respected each other through that. So I want to just thank Dave for those discussions.
He stopped coming to my office after he said, now this is government and this is business. I go, oh, yes, we want to get more like a business. And then he never came back anymore.
We are government. So I think we're all in agreement on attorney and sheriff. I am as well. As far as the other elected officials, I was leaning at that 135 as we've seen in other counties. If Doc would like 130, I could join in with that, as that being the highest amongst those that have been suggested so far. But my number was 135, and then coroner. Yeah, I mean, I don't have that. If can you enlighten us there, John?
So, yeah, so I spoke with Danny. The clarification is that it is part-time. And so we can clarify that further if you wanted to talk about that.
So we're saying part-time, not full-time. Oh, okay.
And he's at 85 now, is that correct?
Sorry, I'm reading an email from,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
is that us that clarifies it a part-time or state statute?
I can clarify that. I didn't see it in the statute specifically, so but that's the
Thank you.
information that.
So we have more questions around coroner than we have answers.
With 65. Thank you.
It's not- So the statute does not clarify full-time or part-time.
No,
Okay.
but he has a second employment as well, right? Which doesn't, I guess, necessarily matter because I was working full-time and. doing-
But
Okay.
You know, what?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd.
yeah, as we ponder this, I think one thing to take a look at is a comment that's actually been passed to me, and that's is that remember that the coroner also has another position and outside of the county, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm. Okay. So the coroner, while on call and many off hours, weekends, holidays, it is also isn't enough work to be full-time,
No.
but it's certainly double time, time and a half kind of work,
you know,
if that's the right way of saying it. Commissioner Wendland.
that isn't one of the things with the coroner that's considered when they decide to run or anything. I mean, if somebody wants to have another job outside of their elected position and want to work graveyard shift, that's their call. That's not up to us. If the job itself is the job, that's what we're paying for, not paying for whether or not they're supplementing their salary or with another job or anything. So I appreciate the comment. I'm glad to know it because I knew that, but you know, an elected official like everybody else and has statutory responsibilities, and who knows how long they're going to go and for, you know, duration of time takes him away from his family more so than many others. And you know what? It's elected position by statute. That doesn't say it's any more or any less than anybody else's elected position, you know?
I see the sentiment, but then that would also be our argument as well. We're elected.
Well, and you know
Should we-
what?
Should we be 135 as well? And
You have that option.
I know we have that option, but I'm
Have
not
that
sure that
option, but
how
I
well that's going.
I won't
over.
go there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying as well. Any comments before we hear from our assessor? Mr. Davis, if you come into the microphone. Thank you. You weren't going to comment, but now you are? Is that what you're going to say?
I only- Mr. Chairman, I'm Dave Davis, the Sweetwater County Assessor. I've been in front of you multiple times on this topic. I do have down, what I was going to raise my hand for was that I have the coroner currently at 65,000.
Correct.
Okay, so that's correct. The only other thing, you know, and I did some quick math while you were in executive session. I just wanted to see what the average department head had gotten as a raise, a cost of living adjustment, and I understand duties have changed for those people as well. And I did throw out our Public Works Director because he's taken on multiple responsibilities in multiple departments since then. It wasn't fair math, basically. And the average department head in Sweetwater County since 2015 has seen a 38% adjustment in their salary, based on my very, very quick math. So 38% for all those department heads. Again, Commissioner Tolman and I disagree. I do believe we are department heads. But I think that's a pretty good indicator. I mean, they're doing more with less, so are we. And I do think that, you know, the 135, of course, is what we presented. I think the 130 is a reasonable alternative. I think that's a fair salary for the jobs that we are all doing currently. So those are my only comments. I didn't want to beat this thing to death.
We're working on it. We're
We
getting there.
we have made a great college effort to beat this thing to death, but I do appreciate the consideration. I've been speaking for all the elected officials. We all value ourselves. We all value our employees. What we had discussed in the past with the coroner is whatever the percent was for the other elected officials to apply that to him and his deputy. We have the same thing with the clerk of court has a chief deputy as well. We think that's something that, you know, the 85% we think is valid there as well. I haven't talked about it specifically, but I can't see a reason not to. while that position is still there, if that's how it's being compensated, I think that's what should continue. But those are my opinions. I'll answer any questions. Again, I wasn't trying to speak again. I just wanted to clarify with the coroner salary.
Oh, you
So
were too. Dave. You love this topic.
I'm really tired of this topic. I'm
Thank you for
almost-
the information, though. We do appreciate it. You did
Yeah.
give us a lot of data.
I really, and there's a lot of information that you just didn't have. So in order to make the right decision at the right time, I think I had to provide some of that information. And I do appreciate the conversations I've had with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Davis, before you leave, I'd like to thank you because that was one of the things I was going to bring up is the fact that when we went back and did the salary adjustments for the department heads, with the exception of our public works director, who took on many more facets and that type of thing, there was considerable increase in salaries.
Consider.
And again, over the next 4 years after this resolution is passed, there could be and possibly COLAs again, which elected officials will not receive.
Correct.
So I just don't think COLAs should be part of the picture because it's not on the even playing field with everybody else. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Welling, I agree with that. One of the comments I would make is whatever salary you set this to, it's going to stay for a very long time. It took a legislative change to get it changed. And once it's set, it's going to take another legislative change to get it adjusted again. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think when they adjusted it to the circuit court salary, that was a big adjustment for the legislature. So this is not going to change. So whatever happens, this is going to be, it's been 2015 since the last increase. There's going to be a jump, and then it might be 2025. It might be 2035 before the next adjustment is made. And we all understand that. So I just want to make that clear. And then just, cost to implement, I had sent you guys a spreadsheet. If our valuation goes up to 2.4 billion, which was what I'm expecting, and our budget is the same as it was last year, that's a 0.68% of the budget is what it takes to implement the 135. And that includes the chief deputy in the clerk of court. It includes the coroner and the coroner's deputy as well. It's 0.68%. Now, I had referenced that it was 211,000 is what all of those raises would cost. And that's not really accurate. That would be for an entire fiscal year. This happens in January. So that's the new people that are elected in the November election are the ones that receive this. Nobody currently in office is going to receive this unless they win their election. So the elected officials that start in January will actually start with this new salary, whatever is chosen. So my estimates, it actually is just over $100,000 for this budget to implement these changes. Now for the following year, again, would be that full amount. But I just wanted to clarify that because I did give you just a little bit of misinformation there.
So 0.34% for this.
If my math is right and my estimates are good, 0.28 would be the percent to your budget for these salary changes.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
My recommendation, and I would entertain a motion for this, attorney sheriff 145, assessor, treasurer, clerk of courts 135, coroner at a 38% increase would be 87.5. Would anybody like to?
So move.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion. Can I please have a second? No? Okay. Then it dies for a lack of a second, and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yeah, I'll put out a motion. Try number 2, I guess. We'll put out the motion of the attorney and the sheriff at 145, the clerk of court, the assessor, the treasurer, and the clerk. I would recommend at 125 and move up the coroner 25% to match their raise, keeping it a part-time. That's my motion.
And so that number for coroner would be,
Not sure exactly where that would put coroner. But I think sorry.
with the 81,250. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would like to amend the motion to include that the two deputies, the one in the clerk of court's office as well as the coroner office, their raises be consistent with the previous resolutions of 85% of their elected officials' salary. Caveat being, keep in mind, if the elected officials from those two offices are not reelected, then those deputy positions go away based on resolution from a couple years ago.
And is that not true in the attorney's office? 85%?
No,
re-
no. Is it?
That resolution does not,
No,
you're
it doesn't
correct.
include that. No, because we set
Just making sure.
that salary separately, but thank you.
So we have a motion with,
Do the amendment first.
so we have an amendment to the motion to retain the resolution of 85% for the deputy in the two departments mentioned, for coroner and for clerk of court. Okay.
Point of order.
Yeah, yes.
Is that would that amendment be needed because there's a current resolution saying that, Attorney De Leon?
I think it's an appropriate amendment.
We'll move forward with that. Can I have a second on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I need clarification on the amendment because it was, it was, is it the same? So we're just continuing the resolution that's currently in place
Correct.
with no changes?
Because we're changing the salaries, we're restating that the two deputies will stay at 85% as current, because there's a change in the elected official salary.
And there's no other changes that were included in that amendment outside of that?
No, except if they aren't elected, then the deputies go away. As they have another.
Mr.
Departments.
Chairman, I would just like to comment. If
Well, I'm
the,
looking for a second, then
well,
we'll comment.
I'll second it for discussion.
Thank you. Now discussion.
I just want to say, I know maybe we have a resolution that says we can't rehire the deputies, but if the electeds are not reelected, it's more important than ever that we have a deputy in place to run that office.
That's a whole nother discussion. It's a whole different thing.
So I don't like that second part of that motion that Doc made.
It's okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
and the board does have two options in terms of the amendment. It can obviously be made, can be addressed. Again, the resolution is independent. The main issue before the board is setting the salaries for the elected. That resolution does have separate and individual impact that doesn't necessarily, as Commissioner Lloyd identified, have to be addressed.
We could do a resolution later regarding the,
You can address that at a later time.
okay. With that, Commissioner Tolman,
Mhm.
I'll withdraw my motion if you'll withdraw your
Okay,
second.
yes.
Is that okay, John, or do we have to vote it down?
No, you can withdraw.
Withdraw, thank you.
There's no second on it.
No motion at all. No new motion?
No
With the
No
amendment?
amendment.
No amendment.
I mean, okay,
I withdrew the motion for the amendment.
thank you.
And Mary, you withdraw your second, right?
Right, yeah.
All right.
It's going
Any
along swimmingly. So we
discussion?
have a motion and a second on Commissioner Lloyd's salary structure discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
fellow commissioners, I am going to vote no for only one reason, because I think the salary should be at 130. And I'm going to go back to the coroner's position that if one counts, I mean, everybody counts or nobody counts in this position. So just to let you know, it's not that I'm against the raise or anything. I just don't think it's at the right level. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Wendling,
No.
Commissioner Smith, no. Commissioner Shanefield,
No.
Commissioner Toman,
Yes.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Yes.
The motion fails 2-3. I will entertain another motion. While we're here, let's keep doing this.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
how about if we put this on, postpone this for a little bit? And as I look at our agenda, is this the last thing?
We have the specific purpose tax,
Let's put this on hold. What time's specific purpose tax for? I'm
120.
120?
11.
1120.
Sorry, 1120. 120.
2 minutes.
That's okay.
Yeah, in 2 minutes. I would like to suggest we put this on hold and come back to it either after specific purpose tax, just so we can think. Now, it encouraged no discussion because, unless it happens in here or executive session. But I think we're to the point where it shouldn't even be an executive session. We're to our motions, but we can decide
We're
that.
pretty wide open out here.
Yeah, we're pretty wide open. It's good. It's good.
I appreciate that. I would entertain one more motion if there is one out there, and if it fails, then we will have some marination time. How's that? So, anybody else like to try? Or if we don't have a motion, then we will, we can also wait as well. So would we like to wait? Is that feeling I'm getting right there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to, we'll return to that in due time, but we'll move to tab L and our specific purpose tax discussion. And for that, we will look to Commissioner Shanefield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've had a number of public input. We've had 2 stakeholder meetings, we've had our survey, and then we've had our public meeting, followed up by a committee meeting to discuss next steps as of last night. So the recommendation coming from the committee is to request that the commission look at a total project amount of 85 million plus bonding. And then provide some flexible percentages to the municipalities. And that includes the county, so that they can go back to the drawing board and look at their projects. And we can firm up those final numbers so that we can have a better idea around, again, bonding and things like that. The infrastructure only approach has been widely acknowledged across the board, in that the committee would like to ensure that there is only infrastructure needs versus wants on this list. And that is the way that the current list has been cut back by municipalities right now. So the updated list is on our website. And then I also would like to discuss some of the options for county projects. Right now, I have the hospital lab expansion at 6.2 million, the events complex water line at 1.2 million. Castle Rock has 7 ambulance requests at 2.14 million. And North Rock Springs Water and Sewer at 6.2 million. Jamestown Water and Sewer, their original request, and hold on, let me pull this up. I believe it's 12 million. And yes, it's 12 million. I have cut that for the purposes of this list back to 6 million. However, I'm waiting on information from Kale around what they have in place in terms of planning, engineering plans, master plans, and things like that. That project does qualify for ARPA funds as we're seeing it now. That hasn't been fully approved yet. So as we're seeing it now, that project could potentially be an ARPA fund recipient, but I don't know if they have the structure in place to do so. And I don't feel that it's right to be asking our taxpayers to pay for something that potentially could have gotten federal funding if it would have been handled differently in the beginning. So that's kind of where I'm at with the county projects as well. I did send out the recommended percentages to the group, the committee. I've not received any responses back from the committee on those. And I would entertain any conversation around thoughts around the percentages based off of population and then percentages based off of project amount.
So county-wide, we're talking hospital lab, north, water and sewer, and Castle Rock ambulance. Those three, with Jamestown possibly.
And the events complex water line.
Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you. Questions, comments?
Mr. Shanefield? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Commissioner Shanefield, the updated list, I clicked on your link and it still took me to the old list this morning. I haven't been on the website since. Sally, is it on the website? Can you look?
It's under, so the proposed projects, it says review list of proposed projects, and then the link below that is review the list of 5/6/2022 proposed list updated projects. It's a second one.
All right, but then, okay, so that's basically what we're looking at. Is that proposed list at 113 million total?
No, that has been cut back. So the committee and representatives from the municipalities have asked that the commission give a top number and then an idea around a percentage of what that number would look like for each community so that they can go back to the drawing board and cut projects from that list.
Oh, okay.
At their,
All right, I thought they had already cut projects and we're down to around 8.
they have, but it was still, the number was still too high.
Okay, so we need to basically then go back to it. We need to talk about the projects we want to sponsor and then give out a total number.
Yes, and so my suggestion would be to get a total number and then look at those percentages that were configured yesterday from the committee, and I can run through them so that it's transparent for the public as well. And then we would go back and look at our projects based off of that number over the next 2 weeks, and the municipalities would have the same opportunity. But I think that the next decision would be the next meeting after we looked at those percentages and approved that, just to allow everybody the opportunity to go back and look at their projects and cut what's needed.
All right, so then when I look at that list of 5/28 or whenever the date was, infrastructure for Bear Oil, infrastructure for Granger, water, sewer, roads for Bear Oil, street, water, storm infrastructure for Green River, sewer trunk for Jamestown, lab for the hospital. So as I look through them all, it appears as though other than the city of Rock Springs and the county, if we were to sponsor the ones you're talking about, everybody else is pretty well focused on nothing but infrastructure dealing with water and sewer and roads. Is that correct? And as I recall some of the conversations, even when I was at the public hearing the other night and listening to even members in that, there was a strong emphasis of if it's infrastructure, roads, sewer, water, that's very explainable for people for the first time around. So I guess where I'm at is, how does ambulance and the hospital project fit into infrastructure if they're capital projects? And the other people have cut those back, but we haven't.
Absolutely.
So I just, that concerns me. And I'm sorry, but that Jamestown, Rio Vista is very important, not only to Jamestown, but to Green River for economic development and stuff. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I just wanted to clarify if I was reading that correctly or wrong.
That's correct. Everybody has gone to the drawing board and cut.
And it looks like bare bones to infrastructure, i.e. sewer, water, roads, and even to some extent, storm water, sewer. Am I correct?
Flood mitigation.
Yeah, that's stormwater.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's important because, yeah, I get it. So anyhow, I just want to make sure I'm reading it right before I put my foot in my mouth.
All good.
Hungry.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with what Commissioner Wendling would say, would even throw out there, even though it is an infrastructure type project for the events complex, the water line installation and redundancy, I would worry, I question that on the grander scheme of things compared to the infrastructure needs of an entire town or a municipality. So I think as much as I support and want to see the events complex grow and think it's an important project, I think that could also be put into the question for me also at this point.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Wendling.
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd. I think we heard a presentation this morning that number one on their list, if they got support for with the money from parimutuel, so I think it might be worthwhile to reach out to them and say, hey, can you help out a little bit more? Because we just helped out to the tune of, it could be over 350,000 plus a year. And if they get some help from other entities, even if we had to, we can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, when do we vote up or down as to whether or not we run the tax?
The resolution, Mary?
Yes.
Yeah.
When is that? Is that July? We do that motion or June?
Mr. Chairman, maybe we could have, do you know, Lauren, or does John need to look?
It's the 20th of July. Or is it June? It was July 20th is what my.
But you have to have it done and approved.
It has to be approved before then.
So July 20th is our deadline.
Yes.
It is, that's the drop dead, but yes, there are
And
resolutions that need to be done in advance. So there's, yes.
and Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is it okay? I would certainly caution us moving out in front with a resolution before all of them, the other towns and cities, pass their resolutions, so we're not caught in the saddle at the end like we were with the general purpose.
So at least the majority municipalities that we need, that has to be done before, and then us, if we wanted to participate before July 20th.
Yeah, and I think the sentiment from the committee is that they want to present a total package of, like, this is what the county has removed. So if the county decides to go, and I just did the math with just basic infrastructure with that, so that would be the North Rock Springs Water and Sewer and Jamestown Water and Sewer at the total amount of 12 million. That puts the county at 18.2 million. And so that, I mean, that then potentially would free up some additional money to go towards some other basic infrastructure. I know the city of Green River, they have basic road infrastructure that is above and beyond what the percentage that we're looking at here. So they're actually cutting basic infrastructure as well. And so, I mean, if we do decide to remove some of those county projects, which I agree with the comments that have been made, that potentially frees up some other very basic road, water infrastructure that is absolutely needed.
Yeah, and then you could do an entire package rather than a menu.
100%. There's also been discussion around, do you do road and sidewalk menu and water and menu and then wastewater treatment, you know, like separating those out into different options, or just put them all under one.
I can see some advantages and disadvantages, but we need to decide that. We need to decide it quickly for these areas, because part of the holdup, the last special purpose that we didn't have was, you know, a couple of years ago when we tried, was the fact that we just didn't get numbers right away to them, if you remember.
Yep.
And of course, we pulled it because of COVID, but we were running out of time. Thank you.
So can I run through the recommended percentages that the committees kind of work towards? I've presented it back to the committee. They have not, I haven't received any comments back. But these percentages would ensure that Bear Oil, Granger, Superior, Wamsutter all receive their full amount for their number one basic infrastructure priority. They have others that are significant as well. But these percentages would allow for that. And then it also would allow for some flexibility. I don't want us to vote on this is what the percentage is going to be today, because we need to have a little bit of flexibility, but this gives guidance to our municipalities to go back and look at their lists and decide which basic infrastructure is the most important. So Bear Oil, I have it 2.6% of the total, and I did these numbers off of 85 million because that was a recommendation from the committee. The county was at 25.57%. That included all the county projects that I had just discussed. Granger is at 2.8%. Green River is at 23.53%. Rock Springs is at 38.42%. And Superior at 2.2%. Wamsutter is at 4.8%. And I recognize that those do not equal 100%. That was part of the flexibility in there, that there's a 0.08% that will be adjusted in that whole process. So.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I think it's been really well laid out and the work is continuing. So we'll.
What do you need from us today?
I would like to, I'll just make a motion.
Okay.
Can I make a motion, or I will make a motion to recommend the amount for projects at 85 million with the percentages I just read through as a guidance for municipalities to move forward. And I'll leave it at that. And then I had one more comment after.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
just a
Lloyd.
quick discussion. I'm okay with getting down that 85%, knowing it's mostly infrastructure, but I still have concerns with this tax getting through due to voter mistrust and what happened last time on the tax. And I want to make it very clear, if it is not complete infrastructure, I don't see it having a chance to pass. And I wonder if even 85 is too high at this point. So and Lauren, so I guess my question is 85 would be how many years?
So at 17, which is what we got this last year. So the expectation is that it would be obviously 17 or above, because we've seen as high as 22 million. That would be 5 years. However, if we continue to see the increase in taxes, tax revenue based off of just coming out of COVID and everything else and get it upwards of the 22, it'll be paid off in a shorter period of time,
Commissioner
which is
Lloyd?
our goal.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Lloyd.
Commissioner Wendling.
Yeah, Commissioner Lloyd, we haven't voted up and down on the projects. So let's just say, for example, there's two non-infrastructure projects in there, the hospital and the ambulance. We vote not sponsor them. That's going to change your total amount and your percentages again.
Yep.
as well as if we talk to the fair events complex, if there's, even if they can match and bring it down.
Yep.
That type of thing. So there's always that possibility as well. So I think this is a beginning to get them going, but it doesn't mean, it basically says it won't go over those percentages. And we could create some room as we vote up or down on our projects. And I think you know where I'm at. I've already said it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Anything else with that, Commissioner Shanefield?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Winling said it well. This is a start for final decisions around what projects are going to look like. And then we'll move into discussion around what that ballot question is going to be as well. So thank you.
We have direction.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Then I recommend we take a break and we will come back and visit once again our elected salary discussion. Elected officials and salary discussion. So how about at 10 till 12? So 11:50 we'll return. Okay. Thank you. Welcome back to our Board of County Commissioners meeting and our discussion and action we're going to take on our elected official salaries. What I'd like to do is, first of all, divide this up a little bit. So I would like a motion on our attorney and our sheriff at 145.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you. I've also found out that we need a motion for commissioners. So I'll entertain a motion to keep our salaries where they are.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. And we will move to, let's do assessor, treasurer, county clerk, and clerk of courts. I will entertain a motion for those positions.
What was that for again, Jeff? Was that, will you please repeat that?
I will entertain a motion for the assessor, treasurer, clerk, the county clerk, and clerk of courts.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling,
I'll make a motion that their salaries for those 4 elected positions be at $130,000 a year.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? I can wait all day long.
Lionel Richie.
All night long.
Second? Okay, I will say that that fails for a lack of a second. Now I'll entertain another motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Lloyd,
I'd make a motion for the clerk, the assessor, the clerk of court, and the treasurer's salary to be set at 125.
we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Yay. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to amend the motion to see those salaries go up to 135 as you requested.
okay, we have an amendment. Would we have a second on that amendment?
Point of order. That's a clarification that the salaries would go to 135?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Second on the amendment? Say that amendment dies for lack of a second, and we go back to our original motion. And did we get a second? We did have a second.
You
yes,
did have a
Commissioner
second.
Shanefield. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Nay. So that would fail 2-3.
Oh, my.
Okay.
I think
It
it worked.
failed
for
what?
3.
2-3. You, me, Commissioner Shane.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I will entertain another motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to put the clerk, assessor, treasurer, and clerk of court at 115.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second.
Point of order, Jeff. My hearing is off today. What was that amount?
115.
115?
So we have a motion and a second at 115. Discussion. I'll say I'll be very disappointed if that's what we approve, but
I
That-
would,
that-
I would agree with you. I'd be very disappointed.
all those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
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 Nay. Okay, we've gone one. Where are we?
Going, gone.
Gone one.
Try this one.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Wendling.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Well, I'll entertain a motion. You know what? Let's move on to coroner.
Mr. Chairman, that's what I was going to make a motion on.
Please,
Please.
I'll entertain a motion on the coroner.
I'll make a motion that we move the coroner salary to 85,000.
We have a motion at 85,000. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second discussion.
Chairman,
Commissioner Wendling.
I thought we talked about 8750 at one point.
You did, but the motion's at
I'd like to
85.
amend that motion to go to 8750. 500, I mean, 87,
okay.
500.
So the amendment is 87,500. Do we have a second on that amendment? Second on that amendment. And we'll say that dies for a lack of a second. We go back to our original motion. 85, any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed,
Aye.
nay. Passes 3-2. Back to our fantastic four: assessor, treasurer, clerk, and clerk of courts. We've danced around, and I will make a statement of, I feel as though we are stepping over dollars for dimes. I think we're close-ish here, but I think we can come to an agreement, and I hope it would be on the higher end. That's my comments. So I'll entertain a motion for the Fantastic Four.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Shanefield,
I will make a motion to the clerk, assessor, treasurer, and clerk of court at 125,000.
we have a motion at 125. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Roll
say-
call vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Lloyd,
And this is for 125. It's changed so many times. I just want to make sure I'm correct, right?
you are correct.
Aye.
Commissioner Tolman,
Aye.
Commissioner Shanefield.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith, no. Commissioner Wendling,
No.
it passes 3-2. So 125 it is.
Good work.
Thank you. That was a
Tough
battle.
job.
That was
Good work. Way to work through
John,
it.
did we do everything?
Do
Okay.
we
so,
need to do deputies?
Mr. Chairman, I just must state that if.
Hold
those
on,
of
there's
you-
just a
oh.
moment, Commissioner Tolman. We will have, this will now become a resolution, which we will approve next meeting.
Okay.
So Commissioner Tolman. you have a
No,
comment?
I just wanted to comment that those are up for reelection. The higher the salary goes, the more competition you'll have.
Excellent.
Maybe, maybe not.
Okay. That is our regular agenda. We have executive session, and boy, I have 8 items for our executive session.
8. Ooh,
8. Yeah, so we're going to be a minute.
ugh.
So I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Executive.